Hey, welcome to your Aquarius horoscopes for the week of August 27th to September 2nd. I don't know about you guys, but I'm really excited about fall coming. In just a few weeks, we've got some moon action this week in case the Mercury retrograde wasn't enough. We got to have the moon coming in here too. And as it's coming into Aquarius on Monday, it comes in full opposition with Venus, unfortunately. And the moon's focus is on the mind and your thought process. And of course, this is going to bring an emotional element to your thought process in opposition with another emotional planet, Venus, which is in its very last week of retrograde. So, of course, we have those problems there. Venus's focus is on your long-term goals. Being that it is retrograde, it does stifle your creativity there just a little bit. And Aquarians are not known for being creative people. I know in my experience, being an Aquarian, anyways, that sort of creative element is just not me. I mean, I have it, in some capacity, but you put a bunch of fabric and string and ribbons in front of me and it's just gonna sit there in a pile. I have no clue what to do with that. Ask me to write you a paragraph with something interesting, and I probably definitely come up with that, unless I get that horrendous writer's block that is, of course, that creativity stifled there just a little bit. So that is going to create a bit of a challenge, but really coming back to how the mind works, what's interesting is that when we get emotional, even Aquarians have this problem. When we get emotional, we get to this place where we're doing what we call racing, or we're looping. We're in a hamster wheel. We're going over and over and over again about how angry we are. And we just keep coming back to the same place and back and back and back. And it's frustrating and it's exhausting. And you may not have noticed how exhausting it is. Trust me, every year I get older, it gets more exhausting when I do that. So basically, when you get stuck in that place in your head, you're not doing anything. You're playing on your phone, you're watching TV, you're whatever it is that you're doing is not what you're doing. You're stuck in the loop. Take yourself out of the loop. Number one, take yourself out of the loop, because the loop is just not helping you. Now, on Monday, as the moon is coming in, here is something that is helping you. The moon moves into conjunction with Pluto. Now, Pluto is still in Capricorn, technically, barely back in Capricorn, but it is still in Capricorn. And the moon's conjunction there, as it's coming into your sign, is also bringing this element of Pluto's grand trine with Mercury, which is retrograde, with Mars, which is a very aggressive energy. Sometimes we really need, to get moving. As well as Uranus and Jupiter, which are focused on relationships. So we have a lot going on here. This is the moon and your thought process saying, if you want to change your career, change your thoughts, change the way you talk about it. If you want to change your relationships, change your thoughts about the relationships. We get ourselves stuck in, we can't change, because that's what we're telling ourselves. It doesn't mean that we can't change it. It means that that's what we're telling ourselves. Now, it is possible that we can't change the situation. That is always possible, but you're never going to know if you don't get out of that stinking thinking place, right? As we move into Tuesday, the moon creates a much bigger problem with that opposition with Venus, as it also squares with Jupiter. And in some ways, Uranus is pulled into that as well, which is, of course, our ruling planet and is just going retrograde, like literally on that day, or pretty much maybe the day before. No, literally on that day, going retrograde. So this is also very interesting. The moon's influence now is still on the mind. Don't let your emotional thoughts rule your actions. Venus is still focused on long-term goals and kind of sort of creating an issue there on whether or not you can achieve those goals or not. We bring Jupiter and Uranus into the mix. They're focused on relationships. Two things come out of this. One, relying on the wrong people. to be able to achieve your goals. Obviously, if you go the easy route, it's not necessarily going to work for you. Sometimes you have to work a little bit harder to find the people that are cohesive to your plans. That means that they have as much to risk putting into those goals as you do. When there's no risk involved, there's also no reason to put any effort into it too. And I feel like in many cases, a lot of big-hearted Aquarians are really going to have a problem with this because they want to help other people. But you can't help somebody that's not willing to help themselves. That is really the cardinal rule there. So yes, it does create much bigger challenges as it moves through. But by the time we get to Wednesday, we are literally out of there. I mean, it's still moving, it's still a little bit on the cusp there, but it's far enough away to where it's really not going to be as big of a problem as it was the 2 days before. So absolutely, it's always annoying when the moon comes into Aquarius. Every single month, I'm annoyed by the moon moving into Aquarius, specifically because as it moves through Aquarius, it's getting closer and closer and closer to being a full moon. And by the time we get to Wednesday, it is a full moon. And we will feel the effects of that just a little bit because it is pretty darn close to that cusp. But outside of that, whenever the moon comes into Aquarius, it creates an emotional problem. And we just don't have time for an emotional problem. You got to make time for an emotional problem every now and then. Otherwise, it just backs up in there and then all your problems go spilling out at once. And that, trust me, is a very unpleasant experience. So that's what I have for you guys this week. If you love your horoscopes, do click the link in the description and send me a copy. I would love it if you are listening rather than viewing. That's ko-fi.com/heavy metal psychic. And of course, check out heavymetalpsychic.com. Did you know that you can book right there on the website? You can book time with me right there on the website. It takes a minute. It's easy peasy. And that's what's awesome about it. I'm Melissa Bruce, the Heavy Metal Psychic. Thanks for hanging out this week and enjoying the horoscopes. Do come back. If you're new, welcome. And I will see you guys next week. Of course, I expect you guys to make it a great week. I mean, we're Aquarians. It's what we do, right? I know you'll have a good week despite all that moon action. I'll see you guys next week. Make it a good one.